Hello, welcome to Dimension Quest. In this week's video, I'll walk through the steps required to get Ubuntu 22.04.1 LTS running on an M1 Max MacBook Pro using the VMware Fusion Tech Preview 22H2. Let's get started by visiting the VMware Fusion 22H2 public Tech Preview community. There, we'll find the download link for Fusion 22H2, as well as a link to the Fusion 22H2 Tech Preview testing guide. I highly encourage you to review the community page and testing guide before proceeding. They provide some excellent guidance and links that helped me get through today's video. I've included links to the various resources I used during the course of recording and troubleshooting the process in this video description. In my previous unrecorded attempt to use last year's Fusion Tech Preview for the M1, I didn't do much research. I just did what I usually do as a tech geek. Installed it and tried getting things to work based on prior experience. Unfortunately, that didn't go well at all. So this time I read up a bit and found some great resources in the VMware communities. As I step through the main parts of this video, I'm following the guidance provided in the Tips and Techniques for the Apple Silicon Tech Preview 22H2 guide by Paul Rockwell. In VMware communities, he goes by TechnoGeezer. You'll see during the course of this video that nearly everything in the guide helped me through this process with the exception of the mainline kernel utility. That tool simply failed to do what it was supposed to. It did not install the updated kernel. After a bit of troubleshooting, I simply downloaded the kernel image and modules and installed those, which allowed me to proceed. Okay, let's download the Tech Preview. As you can see here, I've already completed the download and have the file ready, along with a verified working Ubuntu 20.04.4 LTS ARM64 ISO image. The link to that ISO is also in the video's description. Now, the challenge with getting Ubuntu to work with this VMware Fusion on an M1 processor is with the kernel compatibility. So the workaround that Paul and others have figured out is to install an older version of Ubuntu, in our case it's 20.04.4, upgrade it to 22.04.1, and before rebooting, update the kernel to use the 5.19 builds. In my case, I'll be using the 5.19.1. Once you have Fusion and Ubuntu downloaded, you'll want to create a new virtual machine. While I could just drag the ISO to that install from disk or image box, I'm more comfortable creating a custom virtual machine. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, before we actually get started creating the virtual machine, I just want to remind you about that Tech Preview testing guide. As you can see here, I've got it loaded in one of my tabs and also downloaded the PDF and read that ahead of time. In addition to the testing guide, there's also the Tips and Techniques for Apple Silicon Tech Preview 22H2 document that I referred to earlier. This is very, very helpful. Make sure to download a copy of this yourself and review it before you get going on any of your own installation attempts. It'll prove to be very, very useful. All right, Fusion's installed. You've got your documents ready. Let's go ahead and create that virtual machine. Now we want to do Linux. Make sure you've got that Ubuntu 64-bit ARM selected and click Continue. Everything looks good here, except the capacity. That 20 gigs is a bit light, so let's make sure that we get that changed. Click Continue for now. And click on Customize Settings. Let's give this VM a descriptive name of Ubuntu 22.04 64-bit ARM. Yeah, that's very descriptive. I'll go ahead and save that. Okay, now we can go ahead and do our customizations. So let's take a quick look here. General, we don't really need to change anything in here. Sharing, I'm going to go ahead and enable shared folders and select my downloads folder. We'll see a little bit later that by default this does not show up, but I will show you how to take care of that. Okay, processor and memory, 2 CPUs, that's good, but I'm going to go ahead and double the memory just so that I have decent performance here. I do have 64 gigs, so I'll go ahead and give this about 8 gigs. All right, for network adapter, share with my Mac. Hopefully that'll be okay. That'll do a NAT connection. Hard disk, we definitely want to update this. I don't like only 20 gigs, so I'm going to go ahead and bump that up to 80. Click Apply. Yep, everything looks good here. I don't want to pre-allocate the disk space and eat up space that's not being used, so I'll just keep it the way it's set there. Okay, CD. We'll visit that later. Sound, we do want sound. That's good. I'm not going to mess with any of the USB stuff for right now. Okay, compatibility, advanced options, hardware version 20. Okay, everything here looks fine. I'm not going to mess with any of that. Isolation, we do want drag and drop, copy and paste. All that looks good. Advanced, shouldn't need to make any changes here, so I'll leave all of that alone. All right, let's go ahead and mount our CD. So click on connect and then choose your disk or image and make sure you find that 20.04.4 ARM64 ISO that you've downloaded. And as a reminder, that link is in the description. Click open once you have that selected. And click play to power on the VM. All right, we want to select install Ubuntu Server and hit enter. If you're unfamiliar with Fusion, you do have to click into the window in order to do any typing or use the arrow keys to move around. As you can see in the top right corner of my Fusion window, if you need to regain your mouse, just press Control Command. All right, I do want English, so I'll keep that selected there. I'll go ahead and update the installer and continue that. English looks good, so I'll just select Done. Network settings look fine, so I'll select Done on that. I don't need a proxy, so I'll click Done. Mirror address looks fine. Disk settings all look fine. So I'll just tab down to Done and hit Enter. You could make changes here if you like, but I'm going to keep things simple and just leave everything alone. I'll just select Done. And yes, I do want to continue. All right, my name, I'm going to go ahead and just use Dimension Quest. I'll give my server a descriptive name. Ubuntu 22.04 ARM64. That should suffice. And for username, Dimension Quest. I'll go ahead and put in my password there and I'll confirm it. And tab down to Done. All right, I do want to install my OpenSSH server and don't need to import the key, so I clicked Done. I'm not going to add anything extra here, so I'll just tab down and hit Done. All right, I'm going to speed this up because we don't want to sit here for nearly 4 minutes waiting for this to continue. All right, that base bit finished up there, so I've gone ahead and rebooted. I'll get logged in as my Dimension Quest account. All right, let's make sure we have internet connectivity. Looks good. I'm going to go ahead and shut down and get a clean snapshot of 20.04.4. Okay, next I'm going to review the mainline kernel utility documentation there from GitHub. All right, I'm going to copy that and get that pasted into a Notes application because I need to click into my terminal in order to type this command out, and I don't want to scroll back and forth, so it'll be easier just to paste it into Notes there. Now, if I were smart when I were doing this, I would have just SSH'd over to the VM and done it that way, but I did it the hard way. Now, I encourage you to just go ahead and SSH to your VM. So just get your IP address for your Ubuntu VM by typing IP space A and hitting enter, and then get whatever IP address is available there. Don't use the 127.0.0.1 though. That's just your localhost address. All right, let's hope I don't get any typos here. Enter my password for sudo. Okay, 286 packages to install. Lovely. Just over a gig of extra space, no problem. And again, I'll speed this up so we're not waiting a long time for the progress bar to go across. Okay, that finished up pretty quick. Now let's do a clone of the mainline Git repo. Okay, that came down quick. So cd into mainline, and following their guidance, we'll just type make, and then we'll do a sudo make install. Okay, there's a few warnings there, but hopefully that'll be okay. Let's just type mainline help. It looks like the utility is working. All right, now continuing with the tips guide, I'm going to do a sudo apt update. And then I'm going to do a sudo apt dist upgrade. And we'll hit yes for that. Again, we'll speed it up. All right, let's shut down and get another snapshot. Yeah, it looks like that first snapshot is named incorrectly because that's not 22.04 back there. That's actually 20.04.4. All right, we'll get this powered back on. There we go. And we're at the login, so let's get logged back in. So at this point, we're still running 20.04.4. We do have the mainline utility installed. Now we're going to do a sudo do-release-upgrade in order to bring it up to 22.04.1. Now I've sped it up again, and we want to hit yes here to download the additional files. It's 743 megs. Now I am on a gigabit connection here, so it should only take a minute or two. But again, I'll speed it up. All right, we do want to go ahead and restart services, so we'll click yes there. All right, let's confirm our language. English, okay. English, okay. And again, we'll speed up. 3 minutes, 7 seconds was the original time for this next section here. All right, for our SSH config, we'll keep the local version and just hit OK. All right, we're going to remove the extra packages, so we hit yes on that prompt. Now here's where we need to be careful. We do not want to do the restart, so hit no right now. If we were to restart the VM right now, we would have a kernel that's not compatible with VMware Fusion, and the VM would not boot. And you'd have to do this last several steps over again. Actually, at this point, we need to change over to root and try running our mainline command to update the kernel. Now I did a list latest to see what the latest version is, but it doesn't look like it's working properly. Okay, it actually says latest update is 5.19.2. Let's see if we can do that. Mainline -- install - latest. We'll hit enter here. Okay, that doesn't appear to really be doing anything. It says it can't cd to that root cache mainline 5.19.2 folder. Now I tried with 5.19.0 like the tips and techniques guide said to do. I tried with 5.19.1, 5.19.2, and all of them do this exact same thing here. Now I did try looking over the issues in the GitHub repo, didn't really find anything useful there. So I put Google Foo to work and tried looking around, and I came across some instructions on how to just download an updated kernel and install that, update grub, and reboot in order to get things updated. So I think that's going to be the best way for me to go here, since the mainline utility is not working. So let's grab hold of that URL to the mainline kernel files, and we'll scroll all the way down to the bottom, find the latest versions. There's the 5.19.2. And let's see here, we want ARM64. Oh, that's not good. Self-test failed and the build failed. Well, if that's the case for 5.19.2, let's check 5.19.1. Ah, here we go. Build succeeded, self-test failed. Well, let's hope that the build succeeded is good enough for our use case. Now you'll note here that each of the files has a 64K in their names and a corresponding file that does not have 64K. Now, if I'm not mistaken, that has something to do with the block size of the kernel. I could be totally wrong here. I did come across something that said that the M1 processor does not support the 64K. So when you do your downloads here, all you need to get are the Linux-image-unsigned and the Linux-modules files, and make sure they do not have 64K in their name. Now, initially, I didn't know what I was doing here, and I tried downloading just the headers. That definitely didn't work, but the other two files are the ones that you really need. So I'll include a link to these in the description of the video. Now, once you have those URLs, you'll need to SSH into your VM, paste in wget space each one of those URLs, and get each of those downloaded. Once you've completed the download of those two files, then you can just do a dpkg space -i space *deb. So that'll do a dpackage install of all the deb files in your current directory. And once it's done, we want to make sure that we update grub. So just type update-grub and hit enter. All right, once that's done, you are ready to shut down and take another snapshot or simply reboot. Okay, the moment of truth. It looks like it's booting up. Okay, hey, look up at the top there, 22.04.1 LTS, Ubuntu 22.04 ARM64. All right, let's go ahead and log in. And let's run a uname-a. Yep, 5.19.1. We've got the kernel updated there. Excellent. All right, now that I know that I've got a clean booting system, I'm going to do a shutdown and get a snapshot. I'll name it 22.04.1 LTS, installed with no GUI. All right, so at this point, we have 22.04.1 LTS running on our M1 Max MacBook Pro. But we'll go ahead and take it a step further. We're going to install Gnome. So the first thing we want to do is a sudo apt update. Make sure we've got the latest packages available. And we want to install tasksel. Oh, okay, so earlier I had installed the Linux headers, which aren't needed. So it's a partial install there. So I have to do a --fix-broken install to clean that up. If you followed my verbal guidance during the video and you only installed the other two files, you should not have to do what I'm doing here on screen. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and let that remove those headers and hit Y and hit enter. Now that those files are out of the way, I should be able to install tasksel. But I'm going to just reboot and make sure things are clean first. All right, let's get logged back in and retry our install of tasksel. So this tasksel is a task selection utility that gives us several different packages that we can choose to install on our Ubuntu server. Now that we have it installed, we'll do a list of packages, or see what's available here, list task. We've got desktop, Gnome desktop, XFCE desktop, KDE, Cinnamon, Mate, LXDE, LXQT, or we could do like web, SSH, or a laptop. Now I just want to do a Gnome desktop, so I'll do a sudo tasksel space install space gnome-desktop. Now this initial run through took 2 minutes 20 seconds, so I'll go ahead and speed that up. All right, access to the microphone will allow that. Okay, look at that. We have our login, our GDM login. So I clicked my Dimension Quest user account and I'm clicking into the password and typing the password there. And we'll hit enter. And there is Gnome. Outstanding. Okay, we'll hit show applications. We've got a bunch of default things available there. Let's open up our terminal. Let's see if OpenVM tools are installed. I think they are, but I want to make sure. Looks like they're already at the newest version. Outstanding. All right, let's take a look here. Home directory. I do hate these icons. All right, let's just stick to the terminal. All right, so earlier when I was setting up the virtual machine, I did tell it to mount the downloads folder from my host MacBook. Now, we don't have anything auto-mounted here because that's an issue with the VMware tools and just the installers. This does not apply only to M1 Macs. It's a Linux issue with the VMware stuff. So there's two different ways that you can tell Linux to go ahead and do the HGFS. The first way is what I'm showing here on screen, and that is by adding a line to your fstab so that each time you boot, fstab file will process the mount to the /mnt/hgfs folder. Any folders that have been shared to the virtual machine from Fusion will show up in that particular directory. So you could do a symbolic link to that directory from a folder in one of your home directories if you like. Now we're going to do a list there, and we see that there's the downloads. Outstanding. So when I reboot, since this is in fstab, it will go ahead and go through and mount that for me. All right, let's go ahead and get our VM into full screen mode here, and we'll go take a look at the resolution and get that adjusted. Now there is an alternative method of doing a persistent mount of the shared folders, and I've provided a link to that. It's a KB article that you can follow. It's several more steps, but it accomplishes the same thing. Okay, this is not an Ubuntu review, so I'm just going to click through and check for software updates, but it looks like we've got a problem here. Network, no Wi-Fi adapter found. That's fine. Let's click network. Nothing under network. That's weird. See, now Network Manager should have a user interface for our NIC. We saw earlier that in server mode, we had internet connectivity. So what's the problem here? Well, the problem is that when you install Ubuntu as a server, as we did, it has all of the proper network mappings. But then when you go into a user interface like Gnome here, it is looking to use Netplan and Network Manager together. So if Netplan has not been told to render things using Network Manager, then you won't have the little network icon in the top right corner. Now I noticed that my time is quite a ways off here, so I'm going to adjust my time zone. I am here on the east coast of the US, so I'll just select New York. Now that I've got the right time showing, I'll continue with getting things set properly. Now, in order to modify Netplan, we do need to sudo to the su and turn into root. We can go into the etc Netplan folder and we modify the file that we find in there. We just need to go to the line right above version 2, and we need to add a new line that says renderer : space network manager. Make sure you have that capital N and capital M there. Once you're done, save that, and then just type netplan space apply. Watch the top right corner. See the networking icon showed up? Boom, there it is. Wired, connected, and we can click on wired settings, and we see that we are connected at a gigabit. Click the little gear icon, and we can see details about our network connection. Excellent. So now that the user interface sees and understands that we do truly have network connectivity, we can go back into the software manager, and it should not give us that little error message it gave earlier. There we go, software manager, browse software. Let's click on updates. Okay, we are up to date, no error. Last checked was just now. All right, let's go ahead and install Gimp. Nice little Photoshop alternative for Linux. All right, I'll speed that up a bit there. And of course, I'll load up my YouTube page. Okay, Gimp is installed. Let's go ahead and launch it. Now during this launch, once I click that button there, I'm not speeding anything up. That initialization really happened in real time. That is not a speed up at all. I know on my MacBook Pro and Ubuntu VMs at work, Gimp takes quite a bit longer to get loaded up. Okay, next we'll install Audacity. Once that's installed, we'll try getting that launched. Looks like we need to do a special command there with sudo. So sudo snap connect audacity : ALSA, and we'll hit enter. And we can click that button and continue. All right, so Audacity's taken a bit longer to get started up and show its user interface. While we're waiting on that, let's go ahead and get Chromium installed. Now we're fortunate that Chromium is available because Chrome is not. Let's quit Gimp there, and we'll just open a new tab here, and we'll just do a quick Google search about Chrome for ARM64. And we'll see right off the bat an Ubuntu comment there. It says that you can use Chromium instead. There is no ARM64 package for Google Chrome, at least as of this recording. Okay, I see up at the top of the screen, we just got a message that Chromium's available. The install is completed. So let's try launching that. Okay, looking good. All right, well, we got through quite a bit today. I whittled down over 3.5 hours worth of work into a very short period of time. Hopefully you were able to learn quite a bit here, and maybe I got you past some humps and some hurdles that you were having in trying to get an Ubuntu VM running on your M1 processor, or M2 for that matter. And big shout out and thanks to Paul and all the other folks that put in time before me on figuring out all the nuances of getting Linux and Windows to run on the M1 processors under VMware Fusion. Thanks. Have a great week.